Hi, everybody. I'm Sally Wilson, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to TRTP mentor and practitioner Richard Fay. Welcome, Richard.
Sally, thank you. Lovely being here.
It's such a pleasure speaking with you anytime.
Thank you.
So, Richard, can you tell us how you came by TRTP? Because even before you came to TRTP, you'd been a psychotherapist for at least 10 years, hadn't you?
Yeah, I'd had 12 years experience, well, 10 years at the time, experience as a psychotherapist. And I was in a supervision group with another practitioner David, who is also a mentor. And he started talking about client outcomes in the supervision group. And if you've done this work for long enough, you know that there is nothing new under the sun. And so when he started bragging, well, it sounded like bragging, talking about his client outcomes, it was like that scene from when Harry met Sally. I want what she's having. I wanted what he was having. And I got professional jealousy and I made some investigations, but also was very incredulous. I doubted that it was as good as it sounded, because I had worked with thousands of people and I know it's long and slow work. And he was talking about work that wasn't long and slow. And so I wanted to know about it.
Yeah. And what particular areas had you worked in with your clients up until TRTP?
So I had actually made a decision that I didn't want to work in trauma. When I did my master's back in 2010, 11, 12, I didn't want to work in trauma because I didn't want clients re-traumatized, because it's messy and ugly and horrible. And I think partly because I didn't want to go near my own trauma, because trauma is one of those sticky things. So I'd work with anxiety, depression, grief, addiction, and not realizing that all of them are actually symptoms of trauma. All of it, the grief not so much, but unless it gets sticky. The others are definitely manifestations of trauma. And if you don't deal with the trauma, you know what you're doing is dealing with the symptoms, which means they're going to come back.
Yeah. And so then you started your own exploration and decided to do the training as a practitioner. What changed for you through doing the training and then implementing TRTP in your own practice?
When I did the training, well, firstly, because the training was so hands-on, I didn't feel like I was floundering in the dark. So many CPDs I'd done over the years, it goes on the shelf and collects dust, because you're not 100% sure unless you do it over and over and over. And lots of PD, you know what you're doing. With TRTP, I knew exactly what I was doing. There was so much hand-holding, for want of a better word, that I'd stepped through this, and it was so clear, the process. And then all the pieces came together. It's as if 12 years of study and learning and a lifetime actually of learning started to make sense, not just of my practice, but of life. It's as if it made sense of so many aspects of trauma and psychology and how the human being exists in society, and how do we resolve issues that hold us back. That I started flying. My first comment to Judith Richards, who created it, was, well, this is going to be a problem because I'm going to run out of clients if they get better in 3 sessions. I won't have any clients. And she did what you just did. She laughed. She said, we live in a tsunami. We live in an epidemic, a pandemic of trauma. And of course, that now I'm booked up months in advance, because my clients started getting well and started telling their friends and family about the outcomes. And of course, they want what my clients have got. And so people just kept coming through the door. And also at the end of the day, while I'd be exhausted mentally because I'm learning something new, I'd also be deeply satisfied, because clients went away feeling empowered, feeling free. And that made me put a bounce in my step again in the morning. I was thinking, retirement must be coming soon. Now I don't want to retire. I want to do my day's work, my week's work, because I love the outcomes.
Yeah. And so that fear that you had before working with TRTP around addressing trauma, both for yourself and for your clients, how did that transform?
Well, the fear was very quickly diminished. What I did And what I was told to do was just paint by numbers. In other words, stick by exactly the process. Don't
Yeah.
try to go outside the lines. Don't try and create your own version of this. And I'm wondering, is this actually going to work? And to my great surprise, with my very first client, we do a DAS score, depression, anxiety, stress score, before and after. And I think his depression score was like 18 or 19, which was extremely severe. And it was about 0 or 1 afterwards. And I went, oh my goodness, this actually works. This actually works. I mean, it was good enough that it worked for me.
Yeah.
And the way in which it worked for me was, as I was always worried about money. And of course, I was worried about how much this training actually costs.
Yeah.
It was also at the beginning of the year, and I'd had a Christmas break without a lot of income. I'm in private practice.
Yeah.
I had a tax bill to pay for. I had other bills. I had my credit cards maxed out. And I'd always been anxious about money. And I thought, well, no, I'm going to do this. And I found the money somehow. I actually maxed out my credit cards to do it, but you don't have to do that. You can pay it in other ways. And as soon as I did the trauma therapy, my fear of money disappeared. My wife said to me, Richard, do I need to start worrying about money because you've stopped worrying about it? I said, no, we're going to be fine. And of course, 2 years later, we're fine. And I realized I had an unconscious core belief that had come through my father.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it was there. I didn't even go to deal with it in the trauma therapy because I didn't list it in my homework.
Yep.
But it was dealt with automatically.
Yep.
It just gone, done.
100%. And, you know, some of our unconscious core beliefs become conscious and others don't. And I remember when I went, because for anyone who does the training, right, as a practitioner, we have to go through the process ourselves. Of course we do.
Yes.
And so many of us realize once we've done the process that we were holding on to all this stuff that we weren't conscious of because it's unconscious.
Yes. Yes. Right? Yeah, because you don't know about it. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'd realized that for my practice, I had been working with empathy as the primary navigation tool. And I realized empathy is vital, but it's not the end of the story because I didn't understand compassion. And what I understand compassion to be is I have somewhere better to take you. Come with me. Take my hand. And I could take a client to a better place now, which I could never do before. I could never confidently say, I know where you're meant to be and I know what that looks like and I know how to take you there. How different that was for me in my practice and for my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there other, beliefs you had around, well, like the belief of things having to take a long time, it's long time frame work. Were there other things that you had to let go of?
I had to let go of the relationship I had with clients where they needed me. And I realized that's really embarrassing to say, but I had clients who'd been seeing me for years.
Yeah.
And they were very familiar faces.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the one person who hears them, knows them, and understands them.
Yeah.
And I liked being that person. But I had to let go of that. And of course, at the end of the trauma therapy, I say my door is open and they come in for other reasons. They come in because they've got a new business they're setting up and they want some wisdom or advice, or they come in because they've found somebody safe and good for them and as a life partner. And they want me to meet them and help them set up their relationship that's different to previous relationships. So the clients still come back and I say my door is open, but they don't need me. And I don't want anyone to need me. And I don't think it's good for anyone to need us.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. I mean, creating sort of dependent relationships, whether we realize we're doing that or not, it doesn't serve anyone.
No. And of course, it means then that when I'm it's a weekend or it's a night or it's a vacation, I don't have to worry about my clients. They're going to be fine. They know how to look after themselves now.
Yeah.
They know how to do their own work.
Yeah.
And I've given them the tools because you see, a client cannot do their own work if they don't know in their unconscious, in their body, that they're empowered.
Yeah.
And that the past is the past. But once that's true, both those things are true, well, clients can do their own work. They don't need the therapist anymore. And that is the greatest reward I experience professionally. And it means I can enjoy my life. My work is not my life. My life is my life. My work is part of it.
Yeah. Yep. And your work is not a burden because you're not
No,
worried about
no,
clients or yeah.
no. And it would often be Christmas Day or New Year's Eve. I'd be worried. Are they okay? I don't
Yeah.
worry anymore. I know
And,
they're okay.
and so has your clientele changed at all? And I'm just curious what age range you work with TRTP.
Yep. So I work with teenagers right through to old age. I don't see children. And I've got a broad cross section, though my role has been for many years the CEO of the Centre for Men and Families, which is a not-for-profit charity that helps men in crisis. So a large part of my work has been with men, and men have really appreciated the approach of TRTP because they want to go to a professional who says, I know what I'm doing. Like going to a surgeon and the surgeon says to you, well, how would you like me to approach this? I think any patient would go, please get me out of here. So men love the direct approach of TRTP.
Yeah.
They love that that I know where we're going, and they love the empowerment of it. So that's one part of it. But I work with a broad cross section. The more I've worked with it, I work with two ends. So that the messy, dirty end, people who've had really, really messed up, terrible, disastrous lives, and very high-powered professionals who've had incredibly successful lives but have been thwarted by some trauma in their life. So I find that increasingly I'm having those two. I'm not having your garden variety, people who complain about. I don't have whingers anymore. Oh my goodness, no whingers. People who come and just complain about very, very petty stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't have people who tell their story over and over anymore.
Yeah.
Because their story is heard and it's resolved, and it doesn't
Exactly.
need to be heard over and over.
Yeah. TRTP is really for those people who are ready and want it,
Yeah.
want to have a great life, right?
Yeah. And that's a simple invitation. I go, do you want to thrive, or do you want to keep struggling?
Yeah.
Like if you want to keep struggling, by all means, that's your right. But if you want to thrive, well, come with me.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this conversation, Richard. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Sal. Lovely being with you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you as well. Bye, Richard. Bye, everyone.
See ya.